Welcome back to the Old War Raid Guide. My name's Ciderhelm, I'm the administrator of TankSpot.com, and in this video I'll show you our Razorscale strategy. If you'd like more information or would like to learn more about downloading this movie, click more info in the movie information box on YouTube to head directly to TankSpot. Positioning the raid in a smart way helps with this encounter. On the cliff side of the platform, which is opposite of the harpoons and your dwarven allies when you enter the room, is where enemies will enter the encounter through the use of mole machines. This is where we chose to fight them. Relative to where I'm standing, several guardians and watchers will usually enter in random locations on both the left and right sides. Because of this, we have one tank per side dedicated to picking up these adds, and two separate melee DPS groups to help bring these down. Our ranged DPS and healers are spread in between the left and right sides so they can assist on either side depending on what is needed. Since healers generally get initial aggro if a tank doesn't get to adds in time, healers being in the middle rather than surrounding the mole locations allows the tanks to have a general idea which way enemies will run when they enter the encounter. However, some enemies will head directly for the harpoons to attack the dwarves, so you need to keep this in mind. Watchers are significantly more dangerous than guardians and should be the immediate focus of your raid DPS. Additionally, we have two dedicated interrupters per side to target and prevent each watcher from casting Chain Lightning. Since watchers can also cast Lightning Bolt, it's important to pay attention to the cast bar and save interrupts for the Chain Lightning. Other players are also helping to interrupt the Chain Lightning whenever possible. Guardians should be killed after watchers and cleared up any time it is possible to do so. However, they can be off-tanked in the event that DPS needs to be focused elsewhere. You'll notice we've been receiving messages about harpoons being ready. Now that we've been notified that 3 of the 4 harpoons are ready to be used, one of our raid members, in this case a hunter, heads back to begin using them. The harpoons are the key to opening Razorscale to your DPS. Once all 4 have been activated, your dwarven allies will be able to pin her to the ground. However, Razorscale will be able to break free from her captors after a short period, so DPS only has a short window of time to bring her down. To accommodate this, we have one of our DPSers that is interrupting watchers, telling our hunter, who's handling the final harpoon, when all of the watchers have been killed. This signals to the hunter that the final harpoon should be shot immediately, and it signals to the raid to immediately move to the center to get damage on Razorscale. When Razorscale touches the ground, the encounter becomes a burn phase. Our goal is to reach at least 75% before she flies back up in the air. We burn Heroism the first time she's down on the ground because we're more likely to have all of our DPSers alive at this point. Before she can fly up into the air again, she will use a high damage Flame Breath in order to destroy the turrets that are keeping her grounded. For this reason, players should make sure they are behind her. When she's done, she will use a Wing Buffet to knock the raid away from her, and the Mole Machine phase will begin again. There is a third type of enemy called a Sentinel, which will spawn exclusively from the middle between the left and right sides. This is what I'm tanking in this movie. These are random spawns and may come frequently or rarely, and in the case of this movie there are very few that have spawned, so I'm just standing around for most of this. Sentinels deal a large amount of single target damage and whirlwind damage. They also gain a buff which allows them to do significantly more damage, making it ideal to use either a warrior for Shield Slam or another classic and purge it. Sentinels need to be killed by the ranged as soon as possible and are priority over any other enemy in the room. Since they will normally occupy the area where ranged and healers are, it's important that people pay attention and move away from them when they spawn. Throughout the air phases of this encounter, Razorscale is casting fireballs and devouring flames onto the ground. The devouring flames look like blue streaks coming from the air that leave a small blue ball on the ground, which immediately bursts into AoE fire patches. With particle effects set to a low setting, some players will not be able to see streaks and will need to pay special attention to the ground around them. These fire patches deal significant damage and should be treated like void zones. When Razorscale touches the ground a second time, our goal is to bring her below 50% before she can fly back up. At this point, she is permanently grounded and becomes a DPS race. She will still use her Flame Breath and Wing Buffet, but will now gain 2 more abilities. First, she will frequently apply Flame Buffet to the entire raid, a stacking debuff that increases fire damage taken. Second, she will apply Fuse Armor to the tank, a stacking debuff which slows the tank and decreases armor and attack speed. The Flame Buffet acts as an enrage timer. Too many of these and players will simply not be able to survive her outgoing attacks. Fuse Armor, however, can be handled by having tanks switch aggro with each other and using shield wall abilities as needed. In this movie, one of our tanks taunts off of me and continues to move her around the platform. Once my debuffs have worn off, I'll pick her back up. In addition to these abilities, she will still leave patches of flame on the platform. The movement speed debuff of her Fuse Armor can put the tank in a position where they are unable to avoid these flames. For this reason, it is doubly important to have tank switches occurring. Thanks for watching this movie. As always, feel free to ask questions or add suggestions either on YouTube or in the strategy thread on TankSpot.com. Also, TankSpot donors can download all of these movies in high definition directly from our servers. Click the second link in the movie information box to learn more.